Come here. Get off.
Today we're talking to Jodie Slaughter, pronouns she and her. Jody is a 20-something romance author who spends most of her days hunched over a computer for her day job and her nights hunched over a different computer for her novels. While her back is definitely suffering, she wouldn't have it any other way. She loves love, so she writes romance novels full of heart, passion, and heat. When she isn't putting steamy scenes or declarations of devotion on the page, she can normally be found being generally hilarious on Twitter, dreaming about brisket, or watching way too much television. Y'all fools. Hi, Jody. Thank you for joining us today. So, listeners, what y'all can't see is that E has decided that she wants to try to fuck me up on the intros.
Listen. You held out for so long, though.
Huh?
You held out for so long.
I did. I'm proud of myself. I'm going to pat myself on
you
the back.
always fuck up the two hoes.
I'm patting myself.
She's used to...
Because she was trying so hard to throw me off my square.
Whatever.
Terrible.
Anyway.
Terrible. Whatever. Thank you for coming on with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jody, thank you so much for joining us. I fucking loved your book. This was a book that Kenrya, we both kind of pick books, and so this was a Kenrya pick, and sometimes her picks they're good, but it'd be like, this ain't my shit.
That's shady, but okay.
It's so shady.
It's not shady.
So
I'm just saying, like, you like
shady.
wizards and demons and people with like little horns coming out of their head, and I'd be like,
I like everything,
You like
but
gal.
I
As a
like
monster
genre.
fucker,
Yeah, I'll do it. I like more straight stuff too, but I do like to bring in some good genre shit. It keeps it interesting.
And when you pick it, I'm always like, I didn't think I say this all. I didn't think I like it, but I really fucking loved it.
See?
This was one of those books that because I'm not. I always tell my son, readers are leaders. I'm not a leader, but I host a literary podcast. But anyway, I was like drawn to constantly like what's going on, what's about to happen. So, bitch, kudos.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad y'all liked it.
Okay, so
yes, loved it.
Now that I'm done, all of that.
Listen, I'm sucking it in.
Yes,
Look, we gonna love on you.
take it off. That's what we do. We don't do shit else but talk about therapy and dicks. We also
dicks
love on
and we
people.
worship black women.
Two of my three of my
Those are
favorite
my
things in the world.
things. When my dick's big and my therapist is black and I'm feeling reading books.
Mm-hmm.
We need to
Something
Spotify link for that.
Things, then I don't feel so bad. See,
Yeah,
bam.
just
That's absolutely
bastardized
it.
one of my
That's it.
favorite musicals. We watch it on Thanksgiving every year, but we cut it off before the Nazis come, so my daughter doesn't know that part happens. She thinks that they get married and then the movie's over. It's going to stay that way for quite some time.
She about to be fucked up. She gonna be like 15 years old. Like,
Well, first of all, it's long as fuck. So by the time we get to the wedding, I'm ready to move on to the whiz. Like, we start there and then we do the whiz and then we wrap up.
Scary.
We don't do the movie. We do. So remember when NBC did the Wiz live? It's so good.
It is.
So we move on to the Wiz,
Love
and it's
of
a
my
good way
life,
to end the
Amber
night.
Riley's in that. Love
Yo,
of my
her
life.
fucking voice.
her voice is like,
She is just
My God.
Let me not, because I could talk about that woman, everything about her. I'm just like Hard Eyes McGee.
Yes, the
my
best
God.
part of Glee. So I love musicals.
The
Yes.
only part worth.
Yes.
Anyway,
I'm a musical freak. So yeah, like Glee was my shit, but I can't go back. Like, cause Leah Michele.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
And that cast is cursed. Fucking cursed. I don't know what kind of seances Ryan Murphy was doing, what kind of
so
deal.
many of them.
It's real dark and it's devastating. And I know, I get it. You can't go back.
Yeah. But so I do sometimes. I'll just pull up like YouTube clips of her songs, like "Smash Out the Window." Oh my God.
Yes.
Goosebumps.
Oh my God. Her Disco Inferno is like one of my favorites. I love it.
She just. Oh, I was listening to. Oh, okay. Anyway, sorry. We've already digressed.
Amber Riley, I love you. Call me. Like, we could get together. Like,
Yes,
I can
queen.
like really open you up to like, new experiences, new things.
Oh my God. Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay.
Oh my God.
Well, other than standing for Amber Riley,
Yeah.
what did you want to do? What did little Jody want to do when she grew up?
Oh Lord. The first thing I can remember, I wanted to be a doctor. I think because my correlation was that I really actually enjoyed going to the doctor when I was a kid. A lot.
Okay.
It was like, something about it was very comforting for me. As I got old, I was a chubby kid. As I got older and I stayed chubby, that became less comforting.
Yeah, because they're fucking assholes about weight, especially with black women.
Absolutely. And then I also realized that I did not fuck with school like I wasn't about to.
Girl,
No. See, yeah, exactly. I'm like, if I could just wear the stethoscope and like knock on and be like, ooh, then I would maybe.
We can play Operation on Thursdays.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I was probably about like 12 when I realized that wasn't going to be an option for me. And after that, to be honest, I tried my hardest not to think about it because I was just like, I don't know.
Ooh, that's a good strategy.
Yeah, I was just like, don't know. And
For me, it would be because, like, I think I spent so much time obsessing about, like, I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. I don't know what I want to do. And so I think I would have just kind of let the world lead me.
Well, I kind of did. I mean, for a while, like, I say this and people are always like, no, don't say that. But I'm like, I'm not good at things, right? Like, I can't sing. I'm like relatively smart and I was a pretty good student, but I'm not like, genius level. I don't particularly enjoy school. I can't play an instrument. I tried to play the clarinet for a little while and the literal music teacher was like, girl, no. But I've always had this incredible imagination and I've always been very good at writing.
Yeah, I was about to say, bitch, you know how to comment in the spot.
Yes.
Like, you doing good.
That's always been sort of the only thing. But when I was young, like, my imagination, like, I didn't know anybody who was a writer. I have a family full of, like, all kinds. We got a million hairdressers, a doctor, a lawyer, a woman who works at, like, an old folks home. I feel like from the perspective of like a young person, every career, I knew somebody. I didn't know anybody who was like, I'm a writer and I can feed my family off of this and not, whatever.
Yeah.
So as I got older, I realized that like, that was maybe fiction. So when I was like an older teenager, I was like, okay, maybe I'll go into like journalism. And that's kind of what I did for a while. Like more in the realm of like content creation, like, stuff like that. So, yeah, that's a long, drawn-out answer to say, like, who knows?
Fucking know.
Yeah, like, pretty much.
You're on mute.
Oh, yeah.
I am. Sorry. Having a whole ass conversation with myself. So what I said was, you're right. It's interesting because being a writer is not a thing that's held up as a viable career choice, like any more than any other type of artist, right? Like it's just,
not at all.
It's not. That's what I do for a living. I am a writer. That's all I do. And this podcast, yes, I do this podcast too, but whatever.
We do that for a living.
Jealous.
I mean,
do
we
we?
ain't, but we do it. The for a living part is silent.
Exactly.
Soon comes.
Exactly. But it wasn't something that I ever saw. And in fact, when I was younger, like I wanted to be a PR person because I figured I could make money at that, right? So that's what I did for a while because it was presented to me as a viable career where I could get into a job somewhere and make a living and not be living off the back of my creativity.
Yeah.
Because nobody told me that was a thing that I could do.
That's absolutely it. I went into for a long time, like, making pennies at like, content farms, that type of thing.
$30 for a fucking 1,000-word article and shit.
And like creating a ton, having to do work. I mean, all like 12 hours a day, every day, so that I could pay my bills like a grown person. And I was like, I guess I'm kind of living I mean, you know what I mean? Like in some ways, yeah, I don't, but this is not, I knew that it wasn't the type of writing I wanted to be doing. And then I had gotten this like actual like real journalism job. I got laid off from that because that's how digital media
volatile works. Yeah.
Yes. And then I was like, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, I'm 26 now. So when this happened, I was like 24. And I was like, okay, well, now it's time to like, I need something that is going to be secure, because one of my biggest fears was like not having money to pay. Like I didn't want to be on the street. I didn't want to have to like count pennies in my hand every time I went to the grocery store. You know how when you like, I don't know if varying degrees of like growing up, in terms of money, it was super fluctuating. So, there would be times, and it would be, I hate to say that it was embarrassing, but when you're at the grocery store with your mom and she's like, okay, we're going to put this on the aisle first. Yeah. Yes. We're going to put this on the conveyor belt first.
Prioritize.
To a point, you gotta.
Yes. And then she'll be like, tell me when it gets to this and we'll stop. And that's it. And I was like, it was so stressful. Like I didn't want to have that be my life. And so the only thing I was focused on was like, all right, I need to like whatever. I knew I liked English. I was like, I'll go back to school. I'll get a master's degree. I'll teach. Fine. And that's not the way you should go about being a teacher.
I mean, but so much of growing up in a scarcity situation, which I too relate to, is that when you become an adult, you make a lot of decisions because of scarcity. You worry that the opportunities, that the money, that they will vanish, that they will not be there when you need them. And so you grasp onto things that come your way because you don't want to fucking drown because you didn't grab onto the fucking lifeboat. That's
absolutely it. I mean, you stay places that are awful for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's bad. And I mean, I grew up, like I said, it was varying degrees. A large part of my childhood, I did not worry about money, largely because of my grandparents. My mother's parents.
He was like, I don't need nobody saying.
What?
Right.
My mother's parents were more like kind of upperish middle class. My grandmother was a hairdresser and she was pretty successful. My grandfather was like one of the first like real black engineers at IBM. They did well. We were with them for a lot of my childhood. But when I was in my like mid-teens, my grandmother got sick. And she was a hairdresser. She didn't have any insurance. My grandfather had already retired, so he didn't really either. That ate up a lot of that money. That was like the first time I experienced like, no, you can't go to the movies because we literally don't have $10 for you.
Yeah.
And then post that a little bit is when like we struggled a little more. So it's varying degrees, but
you still remember it.
Yeah, I still remember it. And I definitely I was like, at that point, once I gotten laid off from like, it was my first salaried position. And I was making like $45,000 a year.
But
I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, right? I was
listen, bitch.
I was doing great.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying to realize how shaky that all is. And I was like, what's the most secure thing I can think of that I know I can do? I like English. I'll teach English. You never hear about teachers getting laid off, which is bullshit, but you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, I'll do that. So I got another job like in the like digital media field, and I was like, I'll go back to school. I am so far away from the question you initially asked me.
No, this is what we like. This is what we like. Keep that
organic conversation.
Because this kind of gets into like when I
keep going. No.
So it's that at that point when I was like I had gotten this new job, I was like I was not feeling great, so I was like I'm gonna lean into my creative endeavors a bit more. And it was through that when I was like, maybe I can try to put my focus on, instead of like moving in fear, I can try to go out on hope and see what happens. I mean, be smart about it. Like, I'm not leaving I still work a day job, but you know, so yes. So,
but no, I think it's so important that you shared that, because I feel like that's what keeps a lot of us Black girls from pursuing that. We don't see it. We don't know that you can have a job. We're afraid, and it really is like terrifying to take that step out on hope to do it. It's funny you mention that, because I was in my basement and I hoard cleaning products. You ain't gotta be so quick about it.
No, I benefit from it.
It has sent me to the netherrealm.
To be clear, I benefit from her hoarding cleaning products, because every time she finds cleaning wipes, she brings me one.
And I might have like a large number in my basement right now.
Listen.
So, but
don't tell me where you live, sis, because
that's why I'm not giving numbers, because I don't need nobody coming after us. But you know, it's one of those things where like I remember when I don't have it, so when I do, I buy it all. I mean, like I watch hoarders. That's kind of like my porn. Yeah. So I don't get that bad, but I definitely remember times where we don't have. So when I do have, I'm like, oh, I literally got 3 of those big Costco things of toilet paper in the basement, because I'm like, and that's just my like stash for when I don't have it. And the beginning of this pandemic didn't fucking help, because I was like, I'm smart, y'all stupid. So it just reinforced my fuckery, you know?
Yeah, I do that. I do a version of that with shopping. So when you're like, when I was like, and I mean shopping for like clothes and stuff, for a long time, I just couldn't. Like I when I was probably like 19, 20, I had like 2 bras. I wore them down to like the listen.
I'm looking at you, and them things are things.
And I got listen. So right, so but and it's like, and it would get to a point where I would have the money, but I was struggling, and my mother was also struggling, and the only thing I could think of that's worse than me struggling is my mom and my sister.
Yeah.
So for me, my thing was always, I'm keeping a certain amount of money always. Not even just my contingency, but if something happens to her car and I know she needs help or whatever, my sister needs something for something, because my sister's 7 years younger than me. That's right. So I wouldn't spend any of my extra money. So I would have this weird thing where all of a sudden, maybe one day I'd wake up and I'd realize I'd have like $200 extra in my bank account, and something would just happen, and I'd be like, okay, let me just go buy like some jeans and whatever. And I still do that, even though I'm not, my mother isn't, my sister isn't, all of us are like very financially stable and good right now. And I still do that. I still don't shop regularly. So one day I'll look up and I'll have spent $300 on some shit I could have bought, stretched out over like 3 months. Yeah. So I get it. You do. It's like that. It's that poverty. Like, it's PTSD.
Yes,
it's what it is.
It is actually.
Yeah.
So this is definitely something that I struggle with, and I've talked about it a little bit on this show. So I co-wrote a book called How We Fight White Supremacy, and in it I had to write an essay about money. And I could not write that fucking essay because it was unearthing too much stuff for me. And it really didn't break until I talked to my therapist about it like 3 weeks in a row. Because we had to have this conversation about what is my relationship with money? What is it from when I was young that is holding me back? And so much of it is that, I'm like you, we had money and then we didn't. Like my dad was gainfully employed and was great. And then he got laid off at a certain point, and then we didn't have insurance. We started struggling. I got my first job when I was 14. I've been working since then. Like I didn't have a choice. And I realized that I hoard. Besides, one, I am finally learning to say no to things that I do not have time for. But I used to say yes to everything because I was like, I never know when the next assignment is going to come because I am a freelancer. I'm a consultant. Now I'm to the point where I'm literally not taking on any more work this year because I'm so busy. Yes, but it took so long to get to that point, and I'm so fucking tired, to be clear.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like, I quit my full-time job earlier this year so that I could just focus on my consulting. It felt great, but it also felt terrible. And what I realized I was doing, because I had worked really hard, like crazy, like not sleeping, to amass some savings, the most money I've ever been able to save up in my entire life. I've never been more than a paycheck away from shit falling apart, quite honestly. And so I saved this money in preparation. Like, I had set this goal. I got to save X amount of money to be able to quit my job. Because my therapist was like, bitch, you need a plan. You need to stop saying you're going to quit and have a plan. So I had a plan. I had this amount of money. I got the money saved up. But then what I found is I was waiting to the last minute every month to pay my bills. And my therapist was like, why are you doing that? And I was like, I don't know. She's like, it's because you're hoarding your money because you don't know what's going to happen and you're trying to hold on to it to the last possible minute.
The call out of knowing the power, okay, our power companies, like you learn
just how long you can wait before they cut your shit off.
Before they cut it off, not the due date.
No.
You learn. You kind of have like a little, almost an extra month to pay that shit. Listen, I get it. And even when you have money,
no matter how much money I have, I wait for the disconnection notice from AT&T.
Yeah,
like, y'all gonna wait. Y'all gonna get y'all money last.
But here's the thing, though. It fucks with my anxiety to have not paid my bills. So I'm fucking myself over because I've got this scarcity mindset from remembering when I didn't have it, and because I'm afraid to let go of this cushion that I built for myself. But I feel so much better when I do it earlier in the month. So I'm forcing myself to do that. But so much of my reckoning with the way that I work and the way that I spend money, same thing with you with like clothes. I actually had to budget money every month to spend on myself. That was another therapy assignment because I don't spend money on myself. I spend money on my kid. I'll buy everybody food. I do all of those things. Yeah, see, somebody here benefits from that. Yep. Because I'll order delivery for everybody.
Olive Garden. I'm like, bitch, you don't even eat Olive Garden. But give me extra breadsticks.
But then I don't buy myself clothes I got my gowns, my wonderful, lovely gowns. So we transitioned to calling them, exactly, we call them gowns because Walter Mercado, I am no longer calling them mucho. And I wear these shits every day. My partner was like, so how long are we doing this?
Probably forever.
I was like, I can't go back.
Nigga, I'm naked underneath. Don't ask no questions. Just
enjoy it. It's literally easy access.
Yeah, there's not. He's come around, but there's nothing underneath this thing that I am wearing right now as I'm talking to y'all, and there never is. I be out on the porch with E, like, hey.
she shows up.
That's
it's like
real mama
like,
shit. That's some real black mama.
And I just float.
You got the house shoes on too.
No, I'm usually, I'm in flip-flops. What they call them now? Slides. I be in slides.
Oh, yep. Mine are over there.
I keep some fluffy shoes on.
Yeah, that's the point of the pandemic that I'm in. I was doing leggings, like the whole athleisure thing, because that's normally what I'm in anyway. It's too restrictive. I only put that on if I'm taking a walk.
I've had such a weird pandemic. I was doing, at the beginning, I was like doing it. I was like, because I've had a hard year mental health wise. I spent a long time knowing that I had anxiety and kind of ignoring it, being like, I have it, but just kind of being like, yeah, I can kind of push it to the wayside. I started working out a little more in, like, I'd say February. One day I'm like doing what was I doing? Like a squat or something, like a plank. And I just kind of tear or like pull a muscle like kind of right under my titty, really.
Oh no.
Oof. So logically I know that this is what I've done. And it's not that bad. Like, I don't go to the doctor about it immediately. But I spiral because I start being like, well, what if it's my gallbladder? What if this pain is this? What if I have this? What if I have MS? Like spiraling in a way that I've had a little, which is a thing I've had ever since I started writing, ever since I started realizing that there is a trajectory for me and it does seem to be going up. I've started developing a little bit of what's my brain fog? A little bit of like hypochondria. And it's always like something fatal.
Yeah.
It's always like, oh, I'm gonna get cancer.
What's gonna come
I'm
fuck this
26
up?
years old. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is, because everything else in my life is pretty fine. Money is fine. Relationship is like, I'm not in one, but that's okay.
That's
I'm
good.
content
That's
with
fine.
it. Yeah, that's fine. My relationship with my family, fine. Everything's fine.
So you
What I was like, I
waiting
need
for the
something.
other, waiting for the other shoe
Waiting.
to drop. Yeah.
I can't be happy, and so I just start spiraling, and it's been an uphill battle. It's been good, but or it hasn't been good. But in the quarantine, I was like, well, we're working out every day. I'm like cooking every day. I'm writing. I like drafted a book in like a month and a half. But lately it's been like it's been to the point where I'm like, all right, I need to like sit down and not do anything for.
We're
You know what I mean?
several months into this shit.
Yeah.
And it's only so long. I mean, there's only so long you can go.
This sustained level of hyper awareness.
Yeah, it's like
that some of us already have.
I'm about to
because
say,
we already
we're
have.
We're at a fucking 10 already.
We already
Yeah.
operate here, and now we're just here
Yes, and
nonstop. It's difficult.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it is exhausting. That's the best way to put it. I totally understand.
It's ghetto. It's the ghetto.
It is
And not,
the ghetto.
And not the good ghetto, because
No.
the ghetto is great.
Zero
This is,
stars.
Actually,
would
I
not
don't know what
recommend.
this is. This is awful.
Yeah.
But, and it's so great because this is one of the best, like personally, I guess, years of my life. Some good ass
Same.
things are happening to me.
But
And last night,
trash.
I spent a good, woke up 6 a.m, shivering, Googling whether or not I had multiple sclerosis.
Oh, honey.
With no evidence. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's so wild.
Yeah.
Like,
That spiral is real.
That spiral is real. It took a really long time for me in therapy to go through that, to like realize that that's what I was looking for. And that shit was, I was realizing that while shit was falling apart. Like, I'm like, I know I'm going through a divorce, but something's bad is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And my therapist is like, you're going through a divorce.
It's happening.
And you're handling it very, very well. You
Right.
know? So it takes a minute to kind of to understand. The one thing that my therapist always tells me is that you know how to rebuild. So even if something horrible happens, you know how to get through it.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, I like thought I was finished. I was about to graduate in therapy. When my therapist steps you down to like every other week and out to a month, I'm like, oh,
I'm perfect now. I'm good.
Literally, like the week after I graduated to every 2 weeks, I found out I had cancer. And so it was like,
Yeah.
and I got it out one good time. And then was like, okay, I got this. And then got to a point I was sitting in therapy like, so my hair is falling out from chemotherapy, and I got both my titties chopped off, but everything's good. And she was like, wow. But it took a whole lot to get there.
Yeah.
So
I think
you will
also
get there.
that's the thing with anxiety is that you're prepared for everything.
Yeah.
So when it actually gets there, you're like, oh, I'm cool, calm, and collected. I know I've been through this in my head
Yes.
so many times.
I had turbans picked out already. Yeah.
Listen,
God.
I've already felt how bad this is.
Yeah.
Maybe worse.
I never
So
thought
I'm here.
about that in that way. When emergencies happen, I am
You're chill.
level.
Yeah. And that's
To the
thing.
point where people have told me that they feel like I don't care. And I'm like, no, it's just because I've already,
This is a
you're
problem.
right.
We're gonna work
We're
through
gonna
it.
solve it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've solved it every possible way this could go.
I have
I've
went through
thought
plan
about it.
A through Z, and there's a plan AA also.
Yes,
You
I
are
go through this
fucking
with my
right.
mom. My mother is she does. I mean, obviously everyone has anxiety, but she doesn't. And she, when a situation goes on, she can get kind of panicked, and I'm always like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. This is, and she's always like, and or she'll be like, she's like, Jody, like, stop and I'm like, I'm prepared when some shit happens.
Yeah.
And that's how, and I wish you could just get to that level of always being like, I've been through things before. I've been in pain. I have been hurt. I have been troubled. Like, and I'm here, and I got through it. Because that's all I can control is how I get through it.
Yeah.
Right.
If I'm going to die tomorrow, that's just what it's going to be. And I'm not going to be thinking about, well, if I die tomorrow, I'm not going to be able to publish my book and blah, blah, and well, I'll be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And also I'll be dead. So,
There's
you know
that.
what I mean? Like, I'm not going to care.
Yeah.
Like, that'll be the least probably, but it's so hard to, like, get there at a state to be there, try to be there as consistently as possible. But, we work at it. We go to therapy. We suck down these meds.
Them good meds.
And,
How's
yeah.
everything?
Oh my God.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. This is great.
Well,
Really, I feel it. It's great.
Yeah.
And we share, right? We have these conversations. I think that there are so many folks who probably deal with anxiety and don't know it or haven't admitted it to themselves or haven't gotten help in an official diagnosis. Like, I had my first panic attack when I was in the 8th grade. So I was at like 13, 14 years old. But nobody knew what the fuck was going on. I cried for a fucking day.
Yeah.
They just said I broke. I think they said I had a nervous breakdown. Nigga, I was in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
And then we just moved on. I didn't go to therapy. It wasn't a thing. It was the early 90s. Nobody, whatever. But now we have these conversations, and hopefully if there's somebody who has experienced this spiral and recognizes themselves and is like, oh, fuck, this is a thing that I do and didn't even understand that I was doing it. It helps them to be able to get some help too.
Listen,
right?
If you do, you are not alone.
Not alone.
I know how what you're feeling, that feeling in your heart, in your belly, when you're sitting up and it's 6 a.m. and you have a little pain in your pinky, and all of a sudden you're like, it's over for me, or I get it. I understand. What's really helped me, I went through cognitive behavioral therapy, and that I have varying feelings about it. But one thing I know that has helped me is like because I do tend to like to rely on logic a lot.
And there's no logic there.
Yeah, no, none at all.
No.
But my therapist was like, we need to look at like our evidence, right? You have a pain in your side. What else are we having? Like, you know what I mean? Like, people with MS don't just wake up one day with a pain in their side and they go to the doctor and the doctor's like, you have MS.
Right.
Or, it's like, what is the evidence? And I know it's not the end, like, cause the evidence isn't always the thing that pulls me back. I have to learn coping mechanisms, and whatever sometimes it's reading, sometimes it's playing games on my phone for like 2 hours. Whatever.
Mine right now is the new girl. I've been having heart palpitations again.
Yeah.
I just been laying on the couch for 30 minutes in the middle of the day when my heart is going crazy and watching an episode of a show that makes me laugh like a fucking
Jessica
crazy
Day
person.
and the boys,
Liv.
they'll get you good.
Listen,
I just scheduled TikTok time. I'm not elevated like you guys.
Oh, that is so no. I'm 26. My sister is 19, so she's Gen Z. I think she woke up the other day and was like, oh, my side hurt, whatever, and she was like, I think trying to learn a TikTok dance.
See, that's my old ass. I'm 40, and I'm like, oh, let's do a TikTok dance.
You're not 40 yet, bitch.
I'm
let's
not
not
19,
put us there
and I should not
before
be
we get there.
pulling muscles doing TikTok dance.
Sure, but let's not put us there before we get there.
No, please, I can't wait.
You know,
I can't wait. I hate being in my, like, especially because I'm younger than everybody
I
in
will
the
say
romance community.
30s are fucking
enjoy
amazing.
it all. Enjoy each part of it. You know, like the
Yeah.
20s were fun because I was young and dumb and being a hoe and just
Yes,
just
ma'am.
do that. The pandemic. The pandemic has definitely
Outside is closed.
outside
You
is
know what I
closed.
mean?
The 30,
Yeah.
you're getting a little more like, okay, this is who I
Confident.
am. And now that I'm approaching 40, bitch, I don't care. I got the money. It is just balls to the wall.
That's
So-
real
I can't
shit.
wait.
It is a
20s
beautiful
is-
time.
And I mean, it's like fine. It's like fine. But because
Okay,
of my,
I'll take your 20s.
Yeah. Well, it's because of my anxiety, because I've experienced it so long, it almost feels like I'm older. I'm like, okay, well, I'm ready to reap the benefits of, like, because my sister, I have an older sister as well, and she's 34, and she's like, you know, when you turn 30, you're just like horny all the time. You're just like, you're ready to go. Like, she's
Yeah.
like, something about you just whatever. And I'm ready to, like, she's like, you just feel good. She's like, even though you wake up and your body hurts all the time, you just feel good. And I'm ready for that.
I saw this Venn diagram on Instagram. It was like my pussy and my joints, and then it was like popping. that is where I am. I'm like, yeah. But so I will say, I think what makes it better when you get older is just that you learn to shed, like, you're learning to shed the shit that was put in you as a young teen. So you're like, you know what? Y'all gonna like this fucking gut. Y'all gonna like this roll. Y'all gonna like this back fat. You gonna get the pussy that is served. If you don't like the pussy that's served, go
Then
to
go
another
somewhere
restaurant.
else.
I
So,
get it.
yeah.
I'm only getting there this year. I bought my first 2 bodycon dresses a few weeks ago because I've always been fat. I've never been like insecure enough about my body to be like, I'm gonna change it.
Good.
Good, yeah.
But I have always been like, okay, well, we're gonna wear things that hide this and hide this. And I was like, I was up one night doing the impulse shopping, and I was like, I don't have anywhere to go, but
That's
I want to
fine.
try. I've never owned 2 dresses that were this tight because everybody was always like, you know, your stomach, and I put them
Fuck
on and I
them.
look good as fuck.
Yes.
And I was like, wow,
Put it
I can't
on,
believe
take
I've
some
been
thirst trappy
missing
photos. Yes.
This. Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
Listen,
even if they live in your phone, take them shits and look at them and
I
remember.
look at them. I'm
Yes.
like, wow, I can't believe. So I've just kind of started getting there, and I can't wait for that to grow because
It does.
Yeah. Well, I just ordered some lingerie. I suggest you because Rihanna and her Savage Fenty campaign.
Listen.
Yeah. So I ordered some. As soon as it gets here, y'all gonna see my titties left and right.
We already see your
Y'all
titties
do.
left and right.
I'm sorry.
listen, the world needs more. Like, do you know what I mean? There's never too much. Never
Free
too much.
areolas.
Never too much.
Yeah. Okay. So.
I have completely fucked up. Y'all was like, just completely derailed.
No, this is exactly what we need, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, so we're gonna turn to your current book, your latest work. Just one more.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Oh, just some more. I just wanted to write something that was like black and fun and sweet and smutty and filthy. Like, and I was just like, and I was like, I want to put it out on Valentine's Day. It was like, cause I'm single and I'm not doing shit. But I like, you know what I mean? I still like Valentine's Day. And I was like, I want to write about 2 people who like Valentine's Day sort of unabashedly.
Yes.
And Barber, because barbers are so sexy and they're sluts, and I love
Barbers.
We call
And
it a job.
Listen, I say slut in the least shamey way possible.
Yes.
Like,
No, yeah, they're
I live
not.
for it.
I love
Listen,
it though.
That's absolute. They are.
They always have cash on them. Always have
They
cash.
always
Always
stay
crispy. They smell
And
good.
I have such a fondness for Barber, and I know this is gonna sound so. So I told you that my grandmother was
A
a
hairdresser.
hairdresser, and my grandfather was an engineer, but he's my step grandfather who my grandmother married like when my mom was young. My biological grandfather was a barber. So
It's in your blood.
yes, I spent a lot of time when I was young in his barber shop, because Granny would make me sweep and shit, and he would just let me, because they had their own, and he would just let me like run around, and literally he talk the old black men's ears off, because I would meet people later in life, they'd be like, yeah, I remember you used to be talking. But I just have a fondness for, like, I remember such good memories, and I was like, I need a barber, and yeah. So I just that's the inception of that. I know, that's just the inception, and I love. And listen, let me not. I love the smell of a like a smock.
Yeah.
I love how they
barbershop
smell.
Girl, and the powder, it has a certain smell, and
so
that
comforting.
blue stuff. Yeah, sorry.
Hair salons, barbershops, they're so, and I went natural because I didn't want any. My grandmother did my hair from when I was.
He was like, I don't want no damn perm, no more.
Until when she died. Listen, I had a relaxer at 4. Oh, listen, I know.
Wait, did your granny put you in the rollers?
The pink Jones.
Roller wrap. It was a Rosetta. Was incredibly traditional.
Yes, Rosetta.
When I was about 13, I was like, please, can we start the flat iron? Or maybe 12. Please.
She used the Marcel joint.
Yes, or the roller wrap. And so she had to get my cousin Shanella, who also, they worked in the shop together. I have a lot of hairdressers in my family to teach her how to flat iron, because she was like,
wow.
And all my old black lady clients, like, we don't do that. They want a roller wrap.
They want a roller wrap.
And I was like, I'm
and maybe a blue rinse.
Yes, listen. And I was like, I want it straight, because I was going through like a little emo phase. And she was like, no.
You gotta bump them ends.
Yeah, I wanted to put color in my hair.
You wanted a part that was right here, that went like that.
She said no. I wanted a side bang. She was like, okay, we could do a little something. And it was barely. So
with a real hard curl.
Listen, she would not let me experiment with my hair. I mean, for a while, like when I was young, I would have the twisties, the little twist, and then sometimes some straight backs. Yeah. But I put it into that. I put it into that when I went on vacation with my friend, and we were in like Indianapolis. And this old white man was like, "Hi, little boy," and I was like, "We're not doing that ever again anymore, ever." But I went to an Easter Girl Scout parade in a pink velour sweatshirt and some pink Timbs and some straight back. So that's what I was pulling.
I cannot.
I may not be crying.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I was. And
I'm sorry, I had to mute myself. Stop snorting.
No, please listen. But she did my hair. Her and my cousin Shanella, who were both family, were the only people who ever did my hair. And my mom or whatever. But so I always viewed getting my hair done as such a fraught, like emotionally fraught, obviously, but intimate experience. And after she died, I didn't want to go to anybody else. And so I was having my mom put relaxer in my hair in the kitchen. And then I was finally like, all right, that's it. We're just going to,
we're just
not
gonna
do that shit anymore. But
Yo.
So I have a huge fondness for like hairdressers, hair salons, barbers. Okay. And I was like, I need to write a barber.
Okay.
So the main characters in Just One More there's a male protagonist who's a barber, and then the female protagonist is a tattoo artist, right? And they both love Valentine's Day, and on one very special Valentine's Day, they cross each other's paths, right?
Yes.
Okay. We don't want to give too much away.
Hijinks ensue.
Hijinks ensue. So we'll make sure we put a link to that in the show notes so the cast can read it as well.
Yeah, it's filthy. Yeah, definitely read it. Girl.
Yes. We had pics of our
sex scenes. Yeah.
Kenrya's like, well, we're gonna read this one. I said, no, bitch. No, bitch. We got another one we gotta read.
Yeah. And
uh-huh.
I read it for the first time as I was recording it. Oh, God.
Oh, really?
I was like, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
It was spicy. It was spicy.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's
so
what I love.
speaking of which, last week we read an excerpt
From White Whiskey Bargain.
Oh,
We did.
God.
which I kept calling White Whiskey Bottom the other day.
You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, that's a good title. It's
Right?
a different book, but it's a good title.
Yes, but
One that I might
serious.
have to write. But
Yeah.
I would like to see it.
I like that.
So, White Whiskey Bargain stars Hannah, and she's forced to take over a family business after her mother dies. What sparked the idea for this book?
I wanted to write. So I'm born in Birmingham, Alabama, but
My family's from Birmingham.
really,
Yes.
Oh, my dad's family is. My mom's family, Louisville, Kentucky. We moved back when I was 2. That's where I was raised. That's where I live now. I have always had such a fascination with Appalachia, Kentucky specifically, even though Appalachia is it's a large
Yeah.
region. But because one of my parents spent quite a bit of time in Appalachian, Kentucky. And I was always super fascinated by it. And I was always very fascinated about, like, first of all, we don't see a lot of, like, content about Appalachia, period.
Yeah, especially Affrilachians.
Exactly. When we do, they're always white.
Yeah.
So there are people
We think
who,
Dolly
like,
Parton is the only one. that
yeah,
grew up
exactly. There are people who, like, don't even know that there are large populations of people of color, Black and brown people, who live and have lived in Appalachia, for decades, like, making a life. And that's what I wanted to write about. And when I was sort of, like, conceptualizing that idea, I was like, because I kind of like, sometimes writing characters that are a little, like, sometimes morally gray in certain areas that skirt the law. Like, I'm not interested so much in, like, people who play by the rules in a world where I feel that, like, the concept of, like, justice is
Skewed as fuck. What the fuck is that?
It doesn't mean, like, the concept of just, like, people who, like, quote unquote follow the law doesn't mean as much to me in a world where that we know that
Where
to
the
be
law is,
unjust. So, and I was just like, moonshining is fun. It's illegal. I was like, it's really interesting. So I'm gonna, like, write a story about, like, kind of a not Romeo and Juliet, but, like, rivalries, and I'm only gonna have, like, Black and brown people as the main characters.
Well, I loved it. Like, absolutely loved it. And I think I noted this when we were discussing the book. I love that your characters are flawed, but not in this, like, they're just people. And not in this, like,
It's not a fatal flaw.
gasp, stare at the camera. I can't believe this happened. It was just like, they're people. Shit happens. You make decisions because of, a variety of reasons. And you just kind of deal with it, So
Exactly.
I fucking love the book and love the fact that you said it in Appalachia. Affrilachians.
Either way, yes.
But anyway,
I love Affrilachians. I love that word.
I know.
Because it's just, like, I'm from Missouri, from the Midwest. And when I grew up hearing about Appalachia, you think about Dolly Parton and coal
Deliverance.
mining. Yeah. And it's like, but no, there's a whole, we're everywhere. We are everywhere. And not only are we everywhere, we have our own, like, cultures and communities everywhere.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That was a big part to me when I was sort of trying to figure out, like, so, like, Javier, his family's Mexican American, and I was trying to, like, convey that as, like, respectfully as possible. And when I was sort of conceptualizing, like, okay, how are they going to talk? Am I going to put how they talk, like, in the dialogue? You know, not just having, like, they have accents, but type everything out. I was like,
on some Zora Neale Hurston, like, how do you,
Yeah. I was like, these people have been in this place for generations. They're going to have, you know, the same, they're going to talk like people in Appalachia talk. They're going to have accents, but they're also going to retain, because there are like things about their individual cultures that are like so deep rooted that they're also going to retain that, as well as like have their own thing, because you can't be that isolated and not have your own thing, but also like come from two groups of people who are like, you know, cultures are very deep rooted, very proud, and not also retain that as well. So that was like it was really fun and really challenging, but incredibly important to me.
Yeah.
Wow. What kind of research kind of went into making that happen?
Oh Lord, I did a lot of reading. A lot of articles, of which, to be honest, there needs to be more research about Black and brown people in Appalachia, but there isn't a ton. But I did a lot of reading, and then I did a lot of talking to my mother, who spent, I want to say, a couple years in Harlan, Kentucky, actually. And so a lot of the people that she did interact with were outsiders like her, but a lot of them were also like
native to the
natives. Yeah. So we talked a lot about that. And then I did watch some of the show Justified, which is very white. And so, but it's also like, it is a good, I think, interesting representation of like community wise. So yeah, it's an amalgamation of like reading, watching, listening, rather, not talking, but listening.
Right.
So you do a beautiful job building intimacy between the two main characters. Like, just the pozole, is that what you call it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was just a beautiful scene of like, you know, we're gonna cook, and it just beautiful. But
Thank you.
It's also a good dish. I make two different kinds, red and green.
Good.
girl, I made a red one. It was so good, but bitch, we was farting for like fucking years. Like, I could have fucking, you could have went to the moon with the gas that was coming out of this body. Okay. But anyway,
you know, we mostly eat beans in my house, so it's not.
But transition from farting. You have some nasty ass scenes in this book. I fucking loved them. And for the scene that we read the one where Hannah and Javier masturbated in front of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing. It was hot as hell. It was just like intimate and sensual because we always talk about sex as like just actual penetration.
Right.
And it's so much more than that. So what do you want people to take away from that particular scene?
I want people to take away, there are more than, you know, there are so many ways to have sex. There are so many ways to enjoy sex. There are so many ways to like have a partner or partners, be with them, turn them on, get them off without ever having to like lay a finger on them, which I think is incredibly sexy to me. I'm also I love dirty talk. It's an overwhelming thing in my books because I'm just into it. Yeah. And so I think that's a big thing in there. I'm just like, try it. You know what I mean? If you're into it, if you're interested in it, like, because it can get you far.
Girl, it can get you there.
It got them far.
It got them there. Like, and so, yeah, I just want, like, people to, you know, and I think like romance and erotica does a fantastic job of exploring the many ways there are to, like, have sex. And so, you know, I don't think I particularly did anything groundbreaking here, but I definitely want this to be like another representation of like, this is a really great way to be like intimate, to like be sexy, and it doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want Javier to have any sort of like, oh, I'm so jealous of that dildo or whatever. And the concept of like Hannah, like this in the scene, she squirts, but she's also like, well, you probably like, I can make me do it, but
right,
you probably can't. Yeah.
She's like, I'll teach you,
yeah,
but
exactly.
it's
like,
gonna take some work,
right? And I wanted that to be kind of like, you know, because that's how it is. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like when you're by yourself, like, but you can be by yourself and with other people at the same time. So yeah, I just wanted to like show something like that different and hot.
Yeah, and I love that, like that the squirting was not like a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, it was just what she does. There was no, oh, she's embarrassed. Like, she didn't want to do it in front of him. He didn't make some big, crazy deal. You know what I mean? Like, he came over, he picked up the towel. He said, all right, let's go clean up. Let's go.
Let's go take a shower. Yeah.
That's what we, in the fan fiction world, which is how I kind of got my start being interested in writing, called, you know, wet and messy.
So, okay. Fan fiction. What was your first fan fiction you wrote?
Oh, my first. Oh God, I read fan fiction for years before I wrote it. Writ.
No, I say writ.
Writ, y'all.
I say bigger. I say
I can't
bigger,
write
deeper.
anything.
Bigger, deeper. So yeah, it's
all
okay.
the time. Yeah.
It's all right.
Before I wrote anything, but the first. Oh God, what was the first? Oh.
Come on, embarrass yourself.
Okay, when I was like, I actually forgot because I did write something very early on. When I was, I want to say I was maybe 13. There was this band that nobody knows called McFly. They're a British pop rock band, just like four like boring white boys, like whatever. I had written like this, but I was just in love because of course, and there were like, this is back when like, especially with a band, it wasn't on fanfiction.net or like AO3, it was like message boards. So yeah, I wrote, and I don't even think I ever finished it, like not a self insert, but a black OC with one of the OC meaning original character, excuse me. I have to explain the terminology. With one of the band members. And that's the first thing I ever wrote. But I got more serious about writing fan fiction a few years ago when I got really deep into the Walking Dead fandom and started writing Reshown.
Ooh.
And that's where I met my writing group of fanfic writers, and they're why I'm here. Like, they're why, like...
Wow.
We're going to have to put a pin in that and talk to you about that one. We're going to have to put a pin in that.
It's filthy. I wrote some filth, and it's good. And
that's what we like. That's my kind of drink. I like it. Well, it's funny because we interviewed Christina C. Jones, and she said
I listened to that. Her B2K fanfic.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I was like, what's yours?
Yeah. Hers is much less embarrassing because I understand hers. Even from now as a 26-year-old, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I get it. Me looking back I'm like, girl, you were, no. I wish I would have been writing B2K. You have to, like, y'all gonna Google it and look at me and be like, ma'am, are you
definitely gonna Google
dead ass? But you know, I was like,
they got one dude that like
you already Googled it.
They're like white,
they're so white, and they're British,
and
so
then
they're even
one
whiter.
dude, his hair goes like this.
Yeah, that's probably Dougie.
Yeah,
Does he have a nose ring or a lip ring? Which one did he have?
I guess he's the spicy one, the urban one, the one with an
maybe
edge.
that's Harry. He's
my
a little
God.
tanner. My favorite
These motherfuckers are like,
There's no tan.
it's like you're milk colored, your skin milk colored, you're 2% milk colored.
My favorite one was Tom, who's the very blonde one, because he was a nerd. And I was like, oh,
Okay,
like, he likes Star Wars, and I don't care about Star Wars, but I think I like nerds or whatever.
Okay, so just so you know, they are coming back. The picture that I'm looking at of them is from 2019.
Grown. Yeah, I see this too.
Yeah.
They signed a record deal.
They have a sold out show. So none of them are blonde anymore because they've grown. But now I do see the blonde one with the very early 2000s tie and
oh yeah, I think that's Tom, and yeah, he was my fave.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, this one's kind of cute.
I mean,
they're very.
That one's Dougie.
Yeah,
he's kind of cute.
He's the youngest one.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
Listen,
only in theory, not in real life.
They were my life for a good 2 years, and it was so dark. It was so dark because this was like 2007, so like, and none of my friends. They were just this random. They never became big here, so you wouldn't like nobody knew them.
So who?
Yeah, that one. He's cute as an adult.
A little too chiseled and.
I like a little hair situation and a mascara situation. I do.
My taste
and if you saw your
boys,
partner, no,
I know he's not that at all.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
okay.
but that's okay. I'm the one who was always a little attracted to Captain Jack Sparrow.
Were you really?
Yeah,
I never got there.
A little dirty, a lot of mascara.
he looks like his balls stink.
Miss, you like Jim Jones.
Okay, wait a second though. But
he always looks dirty.
But he looks like he looks
grumpy.
Not
he
dirty.
looks like if you did this, you would leave a streak on his face.
He's fine.
Thank you.
He
looks like he hasn't bathed.
But the thing about that is that sometimes they can look
break it down for me, sis.
Enough. Yeah, I tweeted yesterday about, and this is another questionable white man attraction, that Chris Evans, the only time I really see it for him is when because he's from Boston, when he's been in Boston for a long time, because he starts looking
his accent is thicker. Oh, scruffy.
And he starts wearing the white rib tank top. I mean, I don't want to call him the traditional name.
Yes, the A. What do they call it?
And he
shirt.
Has his like shitty tattoos. He's got to change that. He looks a little filthy. And Katrina Jackson and I said, because Katrina Jackson was like, yes, and I was like, he looks like a grimy Italian dude who will fuck you in an alley and then buy you a slice of pizza after.
Be like, and you get pepperoni.
And sometimes you need to do it, and you need to be like,
pepperoni make his pussy talk. Hey,
listen, I know we have to go get some cranberry juice tomorrow, because
that thing gonna be burning.
Yeah, but it's worth. Sometimes they're a little grimy. It's okay.
Yes,
it's good.
Therefore, Jim Jones gets all the stars.
I see it for Jim Jones. I do.
Thank you.
I do. Unfortunately.
All right. We just gonna have to agree to disagree there.
Listen, my like are so shameful. Like Michael B. Jordan, who does a paper bag test with every woman he's ever even been on screen with, let alone kissed. I know. I just think he's just so fine, and it's so dark to me.
I like him from here to here.
Doesn't. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I just want to see the chest and the abs, like from Creed time. But I don't want to look at him because I just, like you said, it's the paper bag situation. I'm like, nigga, you ain't checking for me at all.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
I can't. And then Erica always says I ruin people, but like I know people who know
so
him who are like,
nah. Has been in the industry.
Really?
Kenrya has been in the industry for so long, and so as my best friend, I will literally text her in the middle of the day and be like, I like, boop. And she's like, I had a friend that worked with him and did it, and I'm just like, bitch. So I don't even like. I mean, I do still share my stories of
Yeah.
who I desire. However,
But you just know I might ruin them.
I just know that I got to get it
gonna do
firmly in my loins that I'm going to fuck them, whether or not. And then I tell Kenrya, and she might, or she might not. Most of the time,
Oh
she
my
ruins
God.
the fantasy.
I do.
Well, no, she tries to, but I'm like, you know what?
It's some of this like deep seated. They want what they want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These loins want what
and
they
that's
want.
fine. But it's my duty to tell you what I know, what you choose to do with that information.
Who's your number
Like,
one
crush?
celeb crush right now?
Oh, I don't know if I
Don't
have
say you don't
one.
have any.
Bitch,
gotta
I got a
think
whole
about
list.
it.
But
One,
are you kidding me?
one
One
Rihanna,
right after the other.
two
Bruh.
Jonathan Majors, because that man looked like he could
Listen to
knock
me.
the
God.
civil
Listen
rights out of my pussy.
to
He's a good,
That
he's a
man.
good, like, what that man look? He just looked like, he looked like a Negro-fied. Like, he
Bruh,
be like,
listen,
let
he's
me
civil
fuck your
rights
Negro
fine.
pussy. And I'm like, yes.
And you know he's gonna go to work. He's gonna provide.
Yes. He got them John Henry arms.
Oh my God! Have you been watching Lovecraft Country?
Yes, bitch.
And Tick ain't shit, ain't a sliver of shit, and I'm still like, you know what? I can
You
make
can
it
have
work.
it all.
I can make it work.
I can make it work. I can make it work. Yeah.
I could.
So
That's how fine he is.
Vogue
And I'll-
just did a 24 hours with
Oh, I saw.
Jonathan
Yeah,
him
I
in
didn't
that
watch it yet
bed, And
though.
then white sheets.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the only
We
image
would
I
have
saw.
to change those sheets.
bitch. Yeah. Them dogs be sitting on the corner of the bed looking at us like, Mama,
Yo,
why you do that
nasty.
to Daddy? Like, shut up, kid.
Bruh. Bruh.
Girl,
Oh my God.
yes, I was just like, and then the thing is, I feel like after seeing that, I was like, ooh, this changes my like thoughts of him, because I'm a bird, and I'm like, I feel like I might be a little too birdy for him, like, but because I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna fuck you to some Jodeci, and he'd be like, no, let's put on some Sade, and I'm like, no, Jodeci, motherfucker, like he looks like he's a little refined.
Y'all could settle in the middle at some Floetry.
Yeah, we could until she starts.
Oh, I have some
screaming.
Floetry on my list. Yeah, it's on my playlist.
A little
Okay.
bit.
All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He probably wants to listen to the Roots all the time.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be like,
Which,
nigga,
I'm
put
like,
on
can
some
we put on
cash
some
money.
Gucci Mane?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jody,
I get it.
you my homie. Okay.
I get it. I get it. I need some plies. We need something to like really.
Bitch.
Because
Oh
there's
God,
nothing
you didn't
like
touch her fucking
Love-
bird heart.
I love
there's
Plies.
nothing like. Listen,
And he has been very, very active with regard to the political campaign season.
I know that makes Miss Pretty Pussy even more.
Even, oh, yes,
Listen,
honey.
because there's nothing to me like my
a nigga with
like,
some gold teeth.
Oh,
yes.
Lord. I'm sorry, but watching, okay, I think back because my
nigga with some
ideal,
golds.
my
Ooh.
ideal is Moonlight.
Yes,
That
a
scene where
big
Trevante
black
Rose
motherfucker
is
with some
driving,
gold teeth.
and he's like,
Mm-hmm. I can get with you there. I can't get with you on Plies, but Trevante all day.
Girl,
well, I would sleep with Plies, but I don't know that I necessarily. I don't know that I'm looking at him like I think he's so sexy, like physically, but I still would.
Yeah, like
There's
well, I mean,
something.
like, well, let's say, not saying that my bar is low, but I fuck a lot, you know.
You get hot
so-
for Kirk Franklin too?
Yes,
Do you really?
yeah, I give him some gospel pussy.
Damn.
Okay, sorry.
I can kind of see it. His wife is so beautiful.
I do them both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it. They're so little though. I think I'm taller than both of them probably.
Yeah, Plies
And
too.
that makes
yeah,
me
I'd probably
insecure.
fuck him in
Yeah.
half. But you know what? Yeah,
I'm
fuck
bigger
it.
than
I
all
just
three
put
of
you back
them,
together.
and
Just put you back together and be like, all right, here's
Not
some bad
fuck them in
dates.
half.
Talk to
Oh
you
my
later.
God.
Bye.
Bye.
Kenrya's face is like, these bitches are.
No, Kenrya's been my
No,
best
not at
friend
all.
for 20 years.
Not
this
at all.
bitch understands. Like,
I do.
She gets it.
You need the balance.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
She's the yin of my
love
yang.
it.
Because
Yeah.
what's fucked up is I'm loud about it. This bitch is quiet. She'll just slink back in and be like, hey.
I have a friend like that too.
Like, bitch.
Filthy. Who's just
Put your titty
filthy.
back in your shirt.
Wait, that happened.
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did. I'm like, bitch, do you not see that titty out? Like, goddamn. So, yeah.
Ooh, had a whole session in the car. It was lovely.
And then she just came up.
I didn't know it was still out.
babysitting her daughter, and then she just come up. She's like, "Hey, girl, like, put your titty away.
I mean, to be fair, you see my titties.
I
many
know, but
times.
goddamn, have some respect for your nipple. It's just out flying in the wind while you just. Oh, I'm classy. I don't do that.
That was our second date, and we still together.
Mind you, I got drunk on the Potomac and definitely was flashing my titties.
You had your whole entire everything out.
Yes. And this was like right after radiation. I was showing my titty. My homeboy was like, yes, radiation burns and all.
Yes. I live for it.
Hash brown, breast cancer. Okay. So that was from Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh my God.
Okay, girl, where are we in this thing?
Okay, I have a question. Okay. Do you have a favorite line or passage from White Whiskey Bargain that you would like to share?
I do, and we actually kind of broached on it a little earlier. It's this scene, a little right after like Javier comes back and he kind of confronts Hannah and he's like, "You made me feel like shit, and here's why." And they make the pozole.
Look at that vulnerability.
Words.
Yeah, that's the sexiest thing.
Yes.
And he tells her that he wants to kiss her.
Consent. I have that highlighted in the book, and I wrote consent in all caps because it was sexy.
Yes, that's what I wanted. It made me really emotional when I was like sort of rereading it. I'll be honest, I read the books obviously when I'm editing them, and then almost never again.
Same. I don't read my books unless I'm at a reading.
Yeah, and that's because it's so jarring.
Y'all want me to read this?
I know. It's sometimes people will like, because I remember, but sometimes people will be like, "Oh, and when this happened," I'm like,
yeah,
because I'm also a pantser, so I just. I'm sorry.
What's
that
a
means
pantser?
like So
I thought this was something both of y'all knew, and I was like, yeah, girl. Okay.
So there are plotters, people who like, really plot out their work chapter by chapter or however they do it. And pantsers, which is kind of short for people who fly by the seat of their pants, which is to say you just kind of like go.
Okay.
And
So I
write.
map my stuff out chapter by chapter.
I've tried
What's
doing
your
it.
sign, Jody?
I'm a Leo.
Are you?
Uh-huh.
Look, you saw her look on her face when she said
Yeah, she's like, of course.
Yeah.
Leo.
No,
Yeah,
but
I mean, what else would I be?
Because a pantser seems like very Gemini. Like someone said, like Geminis, they don't know what they're saying until the words come out their mouth, and it's just like, where will this sentence take you?
So she's a Gemini.
And that's if I was a writer, it'd be like, where will this story take you? Let's just see.
That's what I am. It's what I've tried. I had this really like, and it'll probably never see the light of day. This gorgeous black heist novel starring like this like fine ass black thief and this like PI, this like fine ass like black PI, and he's like trying to like catch her. And I was like, okay, I want to get this done in like a reasonable amount of time. So I plotted out every chapter and then I finished and I was like, well, it feels like I've written it already. So, that's it.
Okay. We gonna need you to put some sex scenes in it and then publish it and then come back.
Because this sounds really good.
We might, it's so good. I might,
Do
in like a year,
I mean,
be
if you
able
quietly
to
want to sneak a chapter to me.
listen,
You won't
y'all
tell
might
nobody.
I might put you on my pre-reader list.
Yes, bitch, please. Thank you very much.
Because I have some things.
Or I'll tell your mama about plies.
No! Oh my God. Speaking of, y'all are probably going to cut, you don't have to cut it out, but it's so, because we're talking about crushes. My aunt, she got my mother, she was like, Tori, you need to watch the 50 Shades of Grey movies.
Oh.
Okay, so my mother did it.
Did she try to talk to you about it?
No, but she's become obsessed with it. She watches them all. And I ended up, because
But they're so bad. So I watched the first two.
bad.
They're so bad.
What I found out is that she thinks Jamie Dornan is fine. And that's what it is.
All right.
She even watched, she was like, can you get this thing called, what is that show he's in? He's in a show with Gillian Anderson, where he's a serial killer, by the way. And she's
Is
like,
that the one that's on Netflix right now?
It might be.
Huh. Okay.
I think it was, but she was like, "Can you get that on my TV for me so I can watch it?" I had to subscribe. Dude, I was like, "Well, can you watch it in 7 days?" Because I have to subscribe to the Sundance channel, and I don't feel like paying $7.99 a month. And she was like, "Yeah," and she watched it in 2 days, the whole show, because she thinks. And this is a woman who, like, my mom don't even like light skinned men. She thinks Sam Elliott, old white Sam Elliott with
from
the
Law and
voice.
Order.
He might be. He was in Roadhouse. Not me throwing this pen around. He's got this mustache. You'll
This is this
know
nigga
him
from
when
Law
you
and
see
Order
him.
on the screen.
It might be.
Oh, with the mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
She thinks
maybe
he's
the only white man she thinks is fine. The only
Dear Mom,
and
please stop.
and somehow Jamie Dornan is on the. She's like, "Oh, he's so sexy," and I'm like, "Ugh."
Okay.
I mean, we all
I don't-
have. Oh, he was in Tombstone. That's
I'm like, he looks real westerny, but okay.
Yeah, he is.
All right, Mom.
That's
Yeah.
I have no clue what's going on in that woman's brain, but yeah.
Oh, now
so
I want to
now,
watch Tombstone. Nah, because that's
I
got
just
Val
jogged
Kilmer.
your memory.
You did.
I don't think I've ever seen Tombstone.
I
No,
haven't
it's so
either.
good. So I realized, yeah, okay, I'm having a realization about myself.
You think Sam Elliott's fine too?
No, but so
Like-
Val Kilmer in that movie is very,
Val
kind of. Val Kilmer does not do it for me, but Val Kilmer in that movie,
yeah. I get
and
it.
it's kind of in the same through line as Jack Sparrow.
Which is hilarious
like
because if
you
you saw
a little-
her partner, when we get off, I want you to show her a picture of your partner because you're gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
It's not. No, I don't think it's about looks. It's
even
their-
about
It's
their little.
energy.
No, it's the androgyny. I think that I like.
I see
Your
that.
Yeah,
partner
it's the androgyny.
is the-
No, I know he
Yeah,
is a big black man. He is not. It is. Yeah, I am drawn to androgynous people. I
Yeah.
think is really what it is.
I get that
It's
100%.
Like studs who look. Ooh, like yeah. God.
Young man.
Yeah.
my baby. You can get me pregnant
Yeah.
anytime.
I
It's-
tend to
that's what it is.
Yeah, I get it. I tend to be really into the feminine. So I am often also very into feminine men. You know Saucy Santana? I look at him all the time and I'm like, there's something about him that's like sexy.
I
I'm
give up.
sorry.
I give
There's
up.
sex appeal
Do you
there.
know who Saucy Santana is, Kenrya?
No, I'm
He is a
Googling.
fucking bird on Love and Hip Hop. And he
Oh,
is
okay. I see this beard
walking
and
like
these
a dog.
lashes.
Walking like a dog. Hey, hey.
Listen,
Okay.
Walking like a dog.
like,
Wait,
this is,
wait. Okay,
yes,
no.
and he
He like,
he got nails
that
longer
big
than
Mack
mine.
truck. Right,
This little garage. There's something that I'm just like I'm really interested. I'm very attracted to the feminine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Oh, like
that
Uncle
even
Clifford?
In men,
Oh, now Uncle Clifford's
yes,
a different thing.
Yes.
Yes,
But,
Uncle Clifford is fine.
Yeah.
I would fuck
So
with an Uncle
fine.
Clifford. But Saucy Santana is like,
Well, he's a bird, but I also think that's fun. You know
I'm a
what I mean?
bird.
That's
But like,
fun.
I can't. Saucy Santana, did you see this nigga? Him and his homeboys, his homegirls, they went and got dressed up and like on this private street and did this whole like shoot for Black Lives
Yeah,
Matter.
that was humiliating. It was awful.
They like got dressed up in black.
He was like, at least that, and when people
And
were
then
like,
he's
this
just like,
is not okay.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
That's
I
him.
didn't know who that was.
Saucy
And I was like, what
Santana.
is this?
and
Yeah.
his crew. Mm-hmm.
I have questionable taste, like, to be honest. That's what I do. But, and when he got caught, people were like, this is not it. He was like, at least I went out and took pictures and y'all not doing that. And it was like, baby,
This ain't
be
saying
quiet and just, look back at it.
Yeah.
And then for me, like, you know what I mean? So,
Now
I
I will forever
understand
send you
the, like-
Saucy Santana clips on TikTok.
please. I'm about to be like,
Yeah.
listen, I get it. I get it.
Okay.
There's sex appeal.
Oh my God.
I've
I love
never
this.
admitted
Also,
that
I
out
think,
loud.
it's the androgyny for me.
Yeah.
Like right now, I think we're going to watch Tombstone. I'm your Huckleberry. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to have to revisit it.
Okay, well, with this,
You got to get Randy.
Oh my God. Our partner's going to be like, bitch, what are
what
we
are we
doing?
doing today? Like, ugh. Okay. Well, okay. So, which of your characters in White Whiskey Bargain do you identify with
Oh, Lord.
most?
That's really hard. I feel like it would be easy to say Hannah. I guess. I think, and I feel like maybe this is a bit of a cop-out. I think there is a little bit of me in both Hannah and Javier. There is the part of me in Javier that is like very loyal to like his like close family, to his parents. There's the part of me and Javier that can be a little closed off, but also desperately seeking to change that, to be more vulnerable. There's the part of me in Hannah that kind of just wants to like keep things as simple as possible sometimes. And then also the part of me in Hannah that's like, take charge. So I will say I think it really is a mix of both.
Okay.
It really
That's
is.
not a cop-out.
Yeah, no.
You sure? Okay.
There were like more than 2 characters in the book, so just picking 2
Well,
is
that's
good.
true.
Yeah, it's
That's
fine.
true. I wish I had like a cleaner, more succinct
Sustained.
answer, bruh. But yeah, it's both. It's both of my MCs.
Okay. What are you reading right now?
Oh, so right now I'm reading. It's on a romance. I'm reading Mexican Gothic by I think it's Sylvia Moreno Garcia. It's like a sort of kind of horror, magical realism type thing. I'm doing it as like a buddy read for Halloween with one of my friends.
Oh, nice.
That's so cute. All we do is drink.
See, that's good. I don't drink. I would smoke, but none of my friends smoke, so whatever.
All of our friends do both.
Well, at least rather none of the friends in this group, because my best friend texted me this morning and was like, "I'm taking an edible at 6 a.m. I'm about to get lit. Let's go." But she's in dental school, so that's
she needs to relax
more than anybody. But romance-wise, what am I reading? What am I going to read next, rather? There's a Big City Heat anthology, and Lucy Eden has a story in it called The Wolf of Wall Street, and it's like a wolf shifter, which...
See, she likes the soups too.
I do, and I was really into them when what really got me super into reading and like romance was Twilight. Like, I say it everywhere, I'll speak it forever because it is as problematic as it is. So I did spend a long time reading like paranormal stuff, and I got away from it, but I'm trying to get back into it because there is something like that really entertaining about it. So I'm really hoping to like dive back in.
Well, we have read a few really good paranormal romance by Black women, so we'll share.
Oh, Chintzia C. Higgins. She has a series. I forget what it's called.
We read Chintzia Higgins, but we read Been a Friends from her.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
She has I think it's a series. I think it's called like Wolves of Texas, Wolves of West Texas, something like that. It's real hot.
We read Wings of Fire.
You about to make some shit up.
What our kids read. What's the one?
There's one sitting right here.
The one with the first season, the fairies and the...
I can't remember what it's called, but yeah.
It was good.
That was good. Okay. I can't remember what it's called right this moment, though.
Okay.
There's a lot of books up there.
So, we like to... we've been acting a fool the whole time, but I want to hit you with a few rapid fire questions. They're never rapid fire because I'm like, bitch, what?
Okay.
So...
And then we have to chime
Real
in
quick.
with our own answers.
Okay. One.
Okay.
Favorite drink.
Sweet tea.
Kenrya?
I was gonna say water. That was what I was gonna say first. I know that's awful, but sweet tea.
No, that's good.
Yeah, no. Sparkling water. I drink sparkling water all day.
Oh, I can't. You know what's so awful? I like it lukewarm too, like room temperature
Yeah, room
water.
temp. It's
I
gotta
don't
be
like
room
cold
temp.
water.
Yeah.
I drink my flat water like that.
Oh yeah.
All day. And then but I
Yeah.
also drink sparkling water and I like that really cold. It just depends on if it's got bubbles or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, E.
Well,
What's your
I
favorite
was
drink?
gonna say a margarita with mezcal in it.
Oh,
but,
see,
you
I
know.
said I don't really drink, but if I'm choosing like an alcoholic drink, it's a dark and stormy. I like a rum
Oh,
and
I
coke.
love ginger. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No. Okay. Country or city?
See, this is not rapid fire.
It never is.
City.
Okay.
Yeah, city.
You kill it?
City.
Yeah, city.
Yeah, no, I don't. Too many horror movies are set in the
I just
fucking
think about
country.
like Trump country. Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So,
I'm in Kentucky. Like, please.
right. So this one I thought about our dear friends Hannah and Javier. Your
Okay.
house or theirs?
Theirs.
Okay.
That was
Somebody
quick.
else's house is always fun.
Yeah.
More fun.
Okay.
You know, like when you had friends and it was like, I want to go to your house.
Yeah.
My house is less fun. Like, I want to fuck in your bed.
Yeah.
See,
Let's mess up your
I know that my
sheets.
sheets.
Exactly,
See, but
'cause
see,
I
I
don't
know
feel like
that my
doing
sheets are
laundry.
clean.
That's fair.
You know,
Yeah.
That's an issue with straight, like, cis men.
I have fucked in a car because I asked when the last time the sheets were changed, and they said it had been a couple of weeks, and I said we gonna fuck in this car. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would rather.
I would rather.
And I had a babysitter at my house, and so I was like, we're just gonna fuck in the car.
Again.
Listen, that,
I mean, I fucking cars. What do you want from me?
Okay.
I mean, that's what they're for.
Exactly.
That's what they're for.
Big wedding, little wedding.
Oh, little. No wedding. Little wedding.
Okay. All right.
Little.
That ew.
Yeah.
Courthouse.
Okay.
That's how
Yeah.
I got married.
Yeah, if I'm going to, I think that's, I really don't want to, like, have the aisles full of people neither of us really cares that much about. We have to pay all that money.
Oh no.
I don't want one of those giant dresses. Like a little, like, people we care about the most. We go to the courthouse, just us and, like, our parents or whatever, and then we can have, like, a party after. That's the ideal.
Red Lobster.
I don't like seafood.
So we went to Red Lobster after I got married.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I
I
got married to
know.
courthouse. Erica was my maid of honor, and then we got on the train and we went to Red Lobster in Times Square.
I
And
love
that
that.
was
Yeah. You know, I think about Kenrya's wedding day, and it's more about me and her. It really was.
That's
Should've told us
very,
something.
Oh, you? Okay.
that's very, like, Broad City. Have y'all ever
It
seen
is.
Broad
Yes,
City?
I
yes,
love
yes.
that.
That's very
We watched Broad
Abby
City
and
together.
Alana.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
real Abby
it
and
was-
Alana energy.
The Red Lobster was probably the best thing about
I
the
love
fact that
that.
we got to be together. I gave you, you got that Care Bear sticker.
Yeah,
that
I was
your
the maid of
honor
honor badge.
badge.
Honor badge. It was a Care Bear sticker.
But next time I want a real wedding, but not with people who I don't give a fuck about. First of all, I'm not trying to pay for a bunch
That's
of
what I'm
motherfuckers to
saying.
eat. I just want to be the people who I most care about, friends of the marriage.
You know they're gonna complain. They're gonna shade. They're like, the chicken was.
you don't need to be here.
Fuck you.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
gonna
No.
Yeah.
I just want a party. I just
I just
want
want
to
a
dance on a
dope ass
table.
party. Like, yeah, let's just
Yeah.
all kick it and drink something.
Yeah. We could get
Get some
married
wings
at
at
the
the end.
party. We
Right.
could get married at the party.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great.
So we're
like,
having a party, and we're gonna get married real quick.
Make it a surprise.
I don't even know if it has to be a surprise. I just want to get married at the party.
It's at the party. I think that's a great idea.
Hey. Turn that music down. They gotta get married.
And you know people are gonna be like, oh dang, right in the middle of my song.
I was just about to back that ass up.
But you know I would never do that to the people. We would never turn off Back That Ass Up for anything. Somebody would have to be dying for me to fucking
Don't be
turn
like,
off Back That
just
Ass
turn
Up.
it down a little bit. Damn.
Let me get through the Lil Wayne part.
Damn.
Literally.
I hate y'all. Okay,
This
last
is literally
question.
the best part.
Okay.
Favorite food?
Macaroni and cheese.
I thought you were going to
corner?
say mine.
Yeah, the corner.
The corner with the crusty piece. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's yours?
I don't eat cheese. Mashed potatoes are my favorite.
Really? Do you know, I don't
Yeah.
do much cheese except for in macaroni. Like, people can just like eat cheese. I don't do that.
My stomach will be pop locking it and dropping.
Well, that too, but I just don't like eat because I've only recently become a little lactose intolerant. But
well,
even
honey,
before, I
look down that road
yeah.
and you see 10 years and
No.
you're gonna be lactose intolerant.
Oh.
It does get worse with repeat exposure. And I am allergic to dairy, and I haven't had any in since 2008. Now, there is one thing
damn.
that I still eat that has cheese in it, and that is the biscuits at Red Lobster.
Which proves
And I just know I'm gonna be fucked up. I'm
that it's
burnt.
not real
fine.
cheese in it.
Exactly.
You're able to eat it with
Oh,
no
so you're
problem.
fine. Oh, wow.
It's just a poop situation, but it's not vomit,
Yep.
which is what happens with everything else. So it's fine.
Oh, that's
That is
good.
the only dairy
that's
I've had.
Doable. You can't throw up and be on your phone, but you can be on like pooping and be on your phone.
Yeah. I do it all the time, so it's fine.
I think my favorite food right now are chicken wings. Like, I just love some fucking chicken.
Y'all been ordering from that place over and over
America's
again
Best,
still?
bitch.
Yeah.
I got that. You open up Uber Eats, and it's like America's Best. Would you like to order your regular? Yes.
Yes.
I want lemon pepper wings, garlic parmesan, and hot honey barbecue.
Lemon pepper wet.
Lemon
So
pepper
when Erica had her last surgery, I was waiting outside forever because COVID, and I'm texting with her brother, and we trying to figure out what her meal can be because she's not eating all day because she had to have surgery, and we knew that the only thing she was gonna want was fucking wings. So we had wings waiting on her ass when she got home from surgery.
That is love.
Yes, look.
That's love.
She love a bitch. She love a bitch. Okay.
This has been lovely. What's next? What are you working on?
Well, I have some things that I can't say
You can't
right now,
share,
but there's
it's okay.
some. Yes,
You got some surprises in store for
Yes,
us.
I have some surprises in store, but there is. I'm also working on like a kind of a quarantine novella, another Black romance, an age gap, only 10 years, but with like a really sexy like sculptor who I'm imagining as Mahershala Ali, and he and a like a really this woman, this gorgeous like bald Black woman I found on Instagram.
You're welcome.
Listen, I'm excited. And they're just like in the desert, and they have to quarantine together, and there's some like history, and so
Oh my God, I wanna
that
read
is something that I can share that will be finished and hopefully out soon. But other things you'll have to wait on.
Ooh, okay.
That's awesome. Okay, well, for the people who want to be able to keep up, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, as we said earlier, being generally hilarious, at Jodie Slaughter. And then on Instagram.
Can you spell it for the folks,
Oh,
please?
yes. I'm sorry. At JodieSlaughter. And then on Instagram at Jody_Slaughter. Spelled, both of those, Jody and Slaughter, spelled the same way.
Awesome. And your website is jodieslaughter.com.
.com, yes.
Lovely.
Of course, I forget my website.
That's okay. That's what we're here for. It's okay.
Oh, gosh.
Yo, this has been so fun.
This
It
has
was
been
so fun,
dope as
y'all.
hell. Like,
I needed this. I'm having a high anxiety life.
I did too.
Take
After the
laugh.
night I had, I was nervous. I was like, I hope I can bring the energy, but y'all were just so so easy to talk to, so fun. I had such a great time. You made my day.
Same. Thank you so
This
much
was
for
dope.
coming on.
It was.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Well,
Let
thank
me
you for
say
having
this.
me.
I gotta say the thing. That's it for this week's episode of The Turn On. Thank y'all so much for joining us and hopefully laughing with us because we had fun.
yeah, I was
Shit.
mad, like,
If nobody else did, we did. So we hope y'all came along.
murder braids and an all pink outfit. If
Y'all
that ain't
was
Midwest,
crying.
that's some shit from the
And the
Midwest.
Tims,
Oh my
don't forget the
God.
pink Tims.
Because you
Those
saw
were
that in somebody's
the
video.
Cameron Tim, probably
Yes, I was
Cameron, probably. Because this was about 2005.
Yeah.
Prime
I probably
time.
saw Hey Ma and was like,
Yes. He's talking to me.
Yeah.
he's fine too if we're going to go
He
there.
is fine.
Cameron,
Cameron Giles, he is.
I mean, I don't want to fuck him, but he is fine.
No. He seems like more trouble than he's worth.
Yes.
But very fine.
Yes, I'll give you that. All right, bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
This episode was produced by us, Erica and Kenrya, and edited by Ballistic. The theme music is from Brazy. Now you can support The Turn On and get off. Subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Then drop us a 5-star review and you'll be entered to win something that's turning us on. Post your review and email a screenshot to us at theturnonpodcast@gmail.com to enter. Our Patreon page is also live. Become a supporter today and access lots of goodies, including 2-for-1 raffle entries. Don't forget to send us your book recommendations and sex and related questions. And follow us on Twitter at The Turn On Pod and Instagram at The Turn On Podcast. You can find links to books, merch, transcripts, guest info, and other fun stuff at theturnonpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon. Holla!